Well, Connor, we did it.
We watched what may be the longest film
movie.
on this entire list.
Oh my gosh. I forgot we're even watching a list at this point, and mine just melted.
It's just turned into Lord of the Rings.
It's just Lord of the Rings. Is there anything else on this list besides Lord of the Rings? We could fit 9 movies into these movies.
I actually considered, so our next film is not a trilogy, but the one after is, and it's also the last one in the trilogy. It's Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Oh, okay.
But if I'm completely honest, you don't need to watch those in order. You might need to watch the second one after seeing the first.
Yeah.
I'm not entirely sure, but Good, the Bad, and the Ugly is the last one, and I know you don't need to see those before you watch it. So, yeah.
Oh, so they won't be nearly as long. No, nearly as long. We just watched a movie for 4 hours and 20 minutes.
That's fair.
So if there is anything that long, and the minimum of these movies was 3 hours, 30 minutes, so...
I have more to say about this, but let's get through our first few points before we do that, and then...
Yes. Welcome to Switching Reels.
Yes. I am one of your hosts.
And I'm the other one.
Yep.
So, recommendations.
After you've seen the first 2 movies, watch this
the third one. It's a good wrap-up. It wraps it up with the movies real well.
Yep.
It's the closest we'll get to spoilers for now. But that's really it. There's nothing unique about this one exceptionally. There's a longer battle scene than in the second one.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that I could say maybe you've made it this far into the series.
Yeah.
You're 6 hours in.
Commit. Finish the commitment. Don't
and that's minimum. That's you watch the theatrical cuts, and you're already 6 hours in. So yeah, just watch it.
Just finish it. That's our recommendation. If you want to know more about how the movies are, go listen to the first 2 podcasts after you watch the first 2 movies.
Yeah.
Or don't do it in that order.
Or watch different episodes entirely.
Episodes. Yeah, there you go. That works too. Watch all of our episodes. Does it deserve its place on the list? This one is number 9. I think we finally made it back.
Yeah.
So that we're on schedule again. Or I think it's 9.
On schedule.
Is it 7? No, it has to be 7 because
I think
Schindler's List was 6.
Okay. I believe you.
Yeah.
We'll be done with at least the filming of the first 10 by the end of the year.
Yeah. We did a good job. We did a great job.
So, does it deserve its place?
Yeah. Yes.
Yes.
I'd say so. I love this movie. I believe that this movie is better than 12 Angry Men and is better than Godfather Part 2. I wouldn't put it above Godfather Part 1. Probably wouldn't put it above Dark Knight as a standalone movie.
Yeah.
But even as a standalone movie, if I didn't watch the other 2 Lord of the Rings, which I don't know why I wouldn't have, I personally, but I wouldn't put it above Schindler's List.
Yeah.
This is the hard part.
Just general, does
I feel like it's Shawshank, Godfather, Dark Knight, Schindler's List, Lord of the Rings.
Okay.
And I'll put Godfather Part 2 down in the 50s or something.
Wow. We haven't even gotten there and you're already dropping it to the 50s.
So I personally do believe that it deserves its place.
I believe that it belongs on the top 250 list. I think it absolutely does not belong
at 7.
At number 7.
Okay,
I
reasonable.
Think that. Well, let's. The things that I'm going to say have a lot to do with initial reaction, and so I want to get there first.
So that's probably the good time to say, hey, we're gonna go start talking about.
Well, we should do our ratings.
Oh, you're right.
Yep.
Thank you.
So, technical for me, this one's actually like an 8.5 in my mind.
Makes sense to me, actually. I feel like I would actually probably put it there too. I might put it at a 9 instead. But some of the green screen, just the backgrounds here were just you couldn't have done a little bit better.
Yeah.
Just a little.
I mean, we've seen them do better in
the previous movies.
Previous two films.
Where you don't notice it.
Yeah.
In this one, you notice it. Like, there's a CG backdrop in very many of these scenes.
Right, yeah.
That get... just rub on you.
Yeah.
Rub on me wrong.
And then enjoyment level.
Yeah. So I would put my enjoyment, though, solid 9.5. Like, it keeps me going the entire time, and I do enjoy it. It wraps up everything really well. There's never a point where I'm like, okay, I'm unfulfilled.
Yeah.
I do really enjoy it.
So this one's actually probably the lowest on the list for me at 8.5.
Nice.
Or I don't know where I put Fellowship.
Yeah, we'll go.
It's slightly below Fellowship for me. Not a ton, but a little bit.
Alrighties. I'm looking forward to going and talking about that.
This is where we're going to get into our spoilers.
Yeah. So, well, if you want to sign off now, please do. But before you do, like, comment, subscribe, go leave a review, tell your friends, tell your mom, tell your dad, your siblings if you have them.
Yep.
Thanks.
Cool. We decided last time that we both have to do a summary in order to get a concise one.
And you did it last time, so that means that it's my turn for the longer one, essentially.
Yeah.
So, Lord of the Rings, Return of the King is, after they've gone and repelled evil, they have to go on the offensive. So, you got Aragorn and company going on the offensive with Rohan, going against some orcs, and Gandalf goes off with Pippin after Pippin is a dumb butt, and talks to Saruman for a second, Saruman is dead at this point, and anyway, they go over to Gryffindor.
My word, did we watch the same movie?
They go over to Gondor. The steward is insane. He sends his son to go get shot. His son doesn't die because he's awesome. They go under siege. For Sam and Frodo have a bad time of it. Sam gets sent away for a few seconds because Gollum sucks. He gets wrapped up, sent to the orcs, eventually gets saved. They go to the Mount Doom while Aragorn gets some ghosts to kill everyone and then distracts Sauron.
Yeah.
And then they destroy the ring.
Yes.
Very important.
Spoiler alert.
The ring does get destroyed.
All right. So my summary.
Please.
The warrior group with Aragorn, Gimli, Legolas, Gandalf, Pippin, Merry all go and fight to save Gondor.
Yeah, that's valid.
And then after that, they go to distract Mordor long enough for Sam and Frodo to get the ring to Mount Doom and get it destroyed. Yeah.
Good job. Pretty concise.
Yeah.
That was very concise.
In fairness, part of my issue with this film overall, which I can get into now,
Yes, you can.
is the fact that I feel like there is a lot less happening narratively.
Okay.
I feel like there is just so much space for these big battles and all of these like really emotional payoff scenes at the end, but like I don't feel like we're getting a whole lot of plot development. We're not getting a whole lot of character development, and so at this point,
it's riding off of the first two.
Yeah,
like it's highly assuming that you've watched the first two. You don't, and that you don't need those. That this is a climactic finish.
Right.
The
yeah.
entire movie is a climactic finish.
Yeah, and I think it was pulled off very well for doing that.
Well.
But I do think that just as a film on its own, I have a really hard time saying like
pretty reasonable.
Yeah, you guys did an incredible job telling a story and creating spectacle at the same time.
Yes, I would agree with that.
Because I don't think there's enough story through this particular film.
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying there. I feel like I need to go read the books again. So, but we're not going to get into the books because that's just another can of worms.
We are going to have to touch on them a little bit.
Yeah, we will a little bit. There's some really nice scenes in the books that I think they did really well in the movies as well.
Yeah.
But I totally see why I and many other people will say, yes, Return of the King is the best one, even though there are some weird technical things and even though there is not as much story because of the just wonderful feeling you have in your soul at seeing all of the plot threads finally resolve.
Yes.
And in very cool ways. Like the Ride of the Rohirrim, astounding.
Oh, yeah.
The just massacre that is the ghosts, awesome. The
there
climb
are
up
a lot
Mount
of
Doom.
moments in this film that I love.
Absolutely. And they do those really well.
Yeah.
I one of my favorite scenes, and we'll talk about that more probably soon, is when they the army at Barad-dûr starts.
Minas Morgul.
Minas Morgul. Yeah. Thank you. Sorry. At Minas Morgul. Leaves. There's just absolutely gorgeous scene where you get this giant beam of green energy into the sky, and the soundtrack is astounding, and it's pretty just. They do a lot of face zooming in this one for Frodo specifically and Sam, but it's a fantastic. I love that scene. It has some very nice payoff.
I do have one more issue that I'm going to bring up,
please,
for me, and with this movie, I can put it pretty concisely into the word bloat.
Okay.
I think that there are just a lot of scenes that they made slow motion, and I don't think they needed to make them slow motion. There's a lot of scenes where it's like,
the truth.
Like these camera shots that I go like, okay, like I'm fine with it, but it really makes it like starts to draw me out of being with the characters.
Totally.
And frankly, with the amount of ending scenes, and like that doesn't bother me as much as it does some people. I know some people that just absolutely hate how long this movie takes to end, and will like end it as soon as
the ring's destroyed, the Eagles come and get them, maybe.
Yeah. They're like, okay,
we're done.
Movie's over. But like, my frustration is the fact that we have all of these ending scenes, and we didn't take the time to use some of the scenes that they cut out from the book. Honestly, Scoring of the Shire, I think, is so
cool.
Thematically important to the book. And so the fact that they cut it out of the film has always been really frustrating.
Yeah, absolutely. Talked a bunch about about industry and that like touch that is in the second book and then just kind of glossed over, but it is in the third a little bit more. Like,
well, and the shockwaves of evil in this were super important. And the fact that in the film they just kind of like, as soon as the ring is destroyed, there is no evil left.
No, it's all gone.
And so like that just really bothers me that we spent so long on those ending scenes and we didn't get the Scoring of the Shire. Mm-hmm. Also, if you haven't read the books, please go do that as well. They're just, even if you've seen the films.
Scoring of the Shire is Saruman doesn't actually die. He goes with Wormtongue to industrialize the Shire.
Yes. He takes the remaining Uruk-hai and goes and enslaves the Shire.
Yep.
Really.
Kind of what you see in the mirror in the first movie.
Yes.
When Frodo is looking into it.
But it also brings into perspective a lot of things about, okay, this is what was happening while the hobbits were off saving the world. But home was being destroyed at that moment. And it's very, very interesting the way that plays with like their emotions, and it makes way more sense that Frodo would have to go to the Grey Havens after that.
Yeah.
And like there is a lot of things in this one, and I think that's my other. I have lots of little issues with this film. I want to be clear. I do think that this is a great film, and I really enjoy it. But
remember, I disliked Godfather Part 2, so you can dislike Return of the King.
I don't dislike Return of the King.
Dislike.
But Yeah, I think there are just a lot of departures from the source material in this one, and I think they're more egregious than they are in either of the other two films. And again, that isn't to say I don't understand. Like, Scoring in the Shire thematically is super important, but tonally totally doesn't fit what they were going
clashes.
for. Yeah.
Like, it's great when you're reading. Like, you can understand and feel it better when you're reading. But if you have to go and, like, see it and experience it after you've destroyed the ring, like, that's hard.
Yeah.
It's difficult.
Well, and again, some of it is just the way that they were trying to wrap up the film, which I think they did a good job of doing the way they wanted to.
Exactly.
But they wanted a very uplifting, in parts bittersweet, but only in
small parts.
Yeah, only in small parts.
Tablespoon bittersweet.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think it was a great film.
Yeah,
I really enjoy it, but I do have a lot of little things that I would
change if you could. We would have liked to see.
I would change if I could. The problem is with a film like this, and coming from it, or coming at it as someone who knows a little bit of what goes into making films, I know I couldn't make this film. Like, I couldn't make the film as good as it is.
Yes.
Let alone make it as good as it is, plus make the changes I would want to make.
Exactly.
But yeah, there it is.
No, I feel you. Totally get it.
This film does have my absolute favorite scene in all of the trilogy, though.
What is it?
It is the scene where they are riding to take Osgiliath, and we're watching Faramir as all of his men just get slaughtered around him, and meanwhile, Pippin is singing in Denethor's. Yeah, I mean, it's the throne room, but it's not his throne room. One thing that struck me actually this time around is how good Denethor's performance was.
Astounding. Ugh.
Like, I kind of overlook it a lot of times because he's just such a deplorable character.
Absolutely. He does it so well.
Right, yeah. And I just, most of the time when I see him and I'm watching the film without thinking about it, I just go, like, I just don't like that guy.
Exactly.
But watching it this time, like, the way that he conveys his emotions are just... It's insane.
He does very well.
Like, the scene that tipped me off was when you start to see him kind of losing his mind with Boromir showing up in the background as Faramir is in the foreground, and you watch the emotion as he changes from this hallucination of seeing Boromir
to seeing Faramir again.
To seeing that, that Boromir's gone and Faramir's there. And just the speed at which his emotion changes, and it's all in his face.
Yeah.
Right? He just says, "My son."
Yeah.
And then, "Get out of my sight."
Exactly. Or leave me.
Yeah. And just in that space, like, you can see his emotion, and it's not like he's acting with his face. You know, that's one that's really easy to do, where, like, people, like, make their expressions change so dramatically that you just go, it doesn't feel real.
Exactly.
I don't like naming names, but I'm going to name one. The one that always gets me is Seth Rogen. He acts very much with his face, and it does really, really bother me.
If he's in any of these, then you'll have to point him out and see, look, there's his face.
Yeah. I don't think he's in any of these.
Okay. Well,
do you know who Seth Rogen is?
He's not Hulk Hogan.
You are correct. You've seen him before. I couldn't tell you what film you would have seen him in, but, like, I know you've seen him.
I'll look it up after. I'm sure I have as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. And though, speaking of, like, outbursts of emotion, kind of when I can't remember what the cousin of the king's name is.
Cousin of the king?
Yeah, of
Theoden?
yes. No, well, I guess nephew. He's nephew. Do you remember what his name is?
Oh, are you talking about Aemir?
Aemir. Thank you. Yes. Whenever he sees Eowyn's body on the battlefield and assumes she's dead, is one of the most emotionally striking things for me personally.
I don't think I'd ever noticed it until this time.
Oh,
like I don't know what it is.
It punches you in the soul. Every time you watch it.
It was super affecting to me, but I don't know that I've ever seen it
really
before.
I hadn't remembered it until I saw it. I was like, oh nope. Every time I see this, it's just like he nails you.
This is also the Lord of the Rings film of speeches.
Yeah, really good speeches.
I think there's like 3 speeches in here that are just lodged in my brain for the rest of my life.
Now for Wrath, now for Ruin, and the Red Dawn,
and the Red Sunrises.
And Red Sunrises, yes.
So good,
so good. Oh my gosh,
the charge to death.
Yes, just so good. And then Aragorn's at the end.
And I will say, the bloat in this film, I think, is worse in the theatrical cut. But by that same token, there is a lot that doesn't make as much sense in the... there's a lot more bloat in the extended cut.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of things that make a lot more sense when you watch the extended cut.
Absolutely.
Certain things just flow better together.
If I remember correctly, like the scene where he gets the ghosts just doesn't make as much sense. Where he's like, "Hey, follow me," and then
it makes sense.
We have no idea like where the dust comes from whenever they're running out of the cave.
Oh, I don't know that they run out of the cave in the theatrical cut.
Oh, they may not.
I think they basically get like. They cut right when he asks for their allegiance, and then the next time we see them, they're hopping off the Corsair ships. Like, we don't even see them take the Corsair ships.
I'm pretty sure that you do see Mr. Ghostman say, "We fight." I'm pretty sure. We'll have to go and watch them at some point just for fun to do a comparison. But yeah,
absolutely.
Oh, the battle here takes up the main battle, the one for Minas Tirith, takes up most of like I feel like it feels like most of the movie, either prepping for it or fighting it.
It takes up a good portion for sure.
And one of the characters that I just feel like is just so well done is like the orc commander. I can't remember what his name is.
Gorbag.
Yeah. It's just like you hate him very early on, and like you just continue hating him. As
I don't hate him.
Okay, that's so. Okay, yeah. Sorry,
he's one of those villains that I just I don't know. There's something about like a certain type of villain where I'm just like, I want to watch an entire film about you.
About you specifically. Exactly. No, yeah, I would agree with that. So he's a very, very good villain, even though like he doesn't exist in the books. Like they added him as.
Did they?
I'm pretty sure. I don't think that he existed in the books.
It's possible.
We'll have to go and double check.
He should have. He should have groveled more in front of the Witch King.
Yes, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Because the Witch King is the guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, like he's again just another fantastic character.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there are so many really good scenes, and honestly, most of them are not with Sam and Frodo for me.
Yeah,
like
totally.
There are some great lines
for Sam and Frodo.
But
like I can't carry it for you, I can carry you. Gorgeous.
Yes. Yeah.
Gorgeous. Like the one standout.
Yeah, that is affecting every time.
Yes, every time.
But yeah, I think the majority of
the impacting scenes
are with the big battles and all that kind of stuff. Battle of Pelennor Fields.
Yeah. Just so good. it's wonderful. And again, touching on it feels like this story is much more on the offensive on all sides. Like all of them are coming and facing each other.
Yeah.
You have the Rohirrim mustering and going to fight for Gondor after they get assaulted, and then you have the marching out of what remains of men, essentially, to the Black Gates.
Yeah.
And you have Sam and Frodo actually like making it into Mordor to finish off the offensive. So it's a cool full circle thing where you get to see the full story arc.
Yeah.
Which is super, super nice.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't have much more to say on this.
I totally agree. So, any other themes specifically in this one? Again, I feel like this kind of hits on what your main critique is for this one.
Yeah,
is that like they don't spend as much time on that. Like it's a finisher.
Like there are some very key lines about hope and that kind of thing, but I don't think that the themes are driven home nearly as well in this film as they are in the other two.
I would agree. No, that's very fair.
That being said, I did notice Theoden's almost defeatism this time.
And we're all gonna die.
It just comes through in a very, very strange way. Yes. It's like in the last film, he is like, we're probably gonna die, but maybe not.
Exactly.
And then like he doesn't truly despair until they're pushed all the way back into the Hornburg.
Yeah.
But in this one, he basically says from the outset, we're all going to go die, but we're going to do it because it needs to be done. We're serving men,
exactly. Yeah. Like we are defending the world as best as we can.
Yeah. And it's very interesting that he, in this film, they did kind of change his characterization from
a little bit
the second film to this one,
because it was again it's a going on the offensive mentality a little bit, because in Two Towers he's defending his homeland. Like if he doesn't believe that he's going to survive, there's no reason to be fighting right now. And then this third one, he doesn't need to go fight. Like
that's true.
He has to make the choice, and he's the only one that can. To go and muster Rohan to go and fight for Gondor and fight against this large evil. The only way you can really do that, knowing the odds, is to have a mentality of, we're doing this because it's the right thing, and that's the only reason.
That's fair, but I mean, like, even the idea that he had basically lost all hope that it was going to succeed.
Yes,
like
he did. No. Yeah. And I wonder though, like, because he does die in this movie.
Yeah, he does.
Like,
he rides for death and then he dies.
Yeah, exactly. Like he's a self-fulfilling prophecy. He just did do that.
Yep.
No, totally.
So, yeah. That was interesting to me.
One standout scene that I just find a little bit weird, because it's the only time they do this, is when Sam stabs Shelob for like the quote-unquote killing blow. It's not killing, but the one that mortally wounds her and sends her back. You have him stab from one perspective, and then it jump shots and time skips backwards such that you see him stab her again from a different angle, like you see in anime.
Oh, I always just read that as he was doing 2 stabs.
Oh, I wonder. That could be it. It feels as though, like, to me,
because she's still squealing in the second stab.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good way of interpreting it. And you could see it that way too. It just feels like it's, like, again, the same stab. For some reason, I felt it that way. So that's a good point. It could be a second stab instead. Because it looks like she is like recoiling, and then it jumps and stab again, and then recoils again.
Yeah.
So I'll have to watch it again. But that's a good point. Actually, I hadn't thought about that.
Knowing you, it will probably be soon.
Yeah, it will be.
When
we're doing laundry. I very much enjoy these movies a lot. So I'll check that out.
Yeah.
I also think, this is just a theory, and I can't remember if they explicitly say it in the book. I think that the ring causes the entire goblin orc tower to massacre itself. Like, just the presence of the ring getting closer drives all of them into a fit of just insane
I wondered
greed.
about that, but on rewatch, Sam has the ring.
He does.
Not
Frodo.
Not Frodo. And secondly, I think it's really one of the only looks that we get at how the orcs interact with one another. And so I think the slaughter was supposed to be just indicative of how greedy the orcs are and how prone to just fighting because there's fighting going on.
Totally.
They are.
I can see that too. It's not a sustainable army if you're killing entire like battalions of orcs.
Yeah.
When one shiny thing shows up.
It's not. I mean, yeah. If you've, so that's one thing where I think the films did kind of put a hole in the world where Tolkien didn't.
Yes.
Because orcs were always violent and selfish, and they didn't care about one another.
Yeah.
Like that was always very clear. But
very much so.
Like to go so far as to just murder everybody because you feel like it.
Exactly.
That doesn't work.
That felt weird.
And
I can't remember
so
exactly
even
how
playing,
it happens
like,
in the book.
even when you're playing Shadow of Mordor, right? Like that game has the great system where it's like you kill a chieftain and another one comes to fill its place, right? And the only ones that stay there very long are the ones that just have killed you 15 times and have way too much health.
Yeah.
But the fact that, like, when I'm playing, I can't help but think, like, I gotta be running low on orcs.
There has to be, right? Like
the amount of times that they fight each other in that game, I'm like,
it's
if this is happening this much,
yeah,
it's like,
and this is with a touch of Sauron, like
right, yeah,
the master at controlling large groups of people, like there's still this much disorder whenever he's touching their mind.
Yeah.
So,
but yeah, I think that this was a film edition.
Yeah.
Very much and I don't think that it was supposed to be because of the ring.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, and I don't think it was a bad one either. Like it helped Sam a lot. And, and you're like, oh, okay, I can see how we can get it up there now.
It makes a little bit more narrative sense.
Exactly. I totally agree with that. And then we already touched on technical things that stand out being green screens. All of them are bad.
Yeah.
When Frodo is running into Mount Doom and you see him like just slide forward like 6 steps.
There are a lot of shots in this one where I'm just like, wow, that's a lot of green screen.
Exactly. I feel like you could have gotten a better shot for whenever Theoden and Eowyn are talking before they leave.
Oh, yeah. For me, I think the hardest ones are in the scenes that are supposed to be really impactful.
Mm-hmm.
I want to feel something so much in the scene where Aragorn says for Frodo and then he runs toward the Black Gate.
Yeah.
Like, I want to feel that so bad. And I can't see anything but the green screen.
Yeah, you can get great screenshots of it. Like,
yeah.
If you take still images of any of those scenes, which is what you see in all the memes, like it looks fantastic.
Right. Yeah.
Whenever you see a person moving with the green screen, it gets difficult.
Yeah. Well, it's because they composited, and compositing is so hard to do right. It's crazy.
I wouldn't know on that one. Yeah.
It's. Yeah. Other technical things. I will say some of the CG in this is actually really, really solid as well.
Like Grom? Grand?
Grand.
Grand. Yeah. Grand is fantastic.
Yeah.
And he's still fantastic.
Yeah.
There's nothing bad about Grand.
Love me a giant wolf head.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And all of the Ride of the Rohirrim, just astounding. They don't have 6,000 horses on the screen. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. But yeah, I mean, I was even just thinking of like all of the stuff being destroyed at the end. Like,
yeah.
Even as someone who really doesn't like CG, I can't help but look at that and be like, that's really pretty.
That was really pretty and cool.
Even though I can see that it's CG and that bothers me.
Yes.
Like,
and the falling of the tower.
Yeah, like the tower falling over, the Black Gate collapsing.
Yes, the explosion.
Yeah. Like, it's just really, really well done.
So well done.
And I mean, all of the things that we've talked about in the first two films are still definitely here.
Exactly.
Like, the atmosphere is fantastic. The soundtrack, yeah,
fantastic. They don't have as many nature scenes in this one as they do in the other two.
That's true.
Again, because it's a more climactic thing. But
and then the costuming, like, it's just
still for all of the orcs.
Yeah,
like the number that you see that are different is astounding.
Oh yeah,
like
it's all of those things were handmade.
Yeah,
it's just nuts.
It's insane.
Same with all of the armor sets. Actually, they were all handmade.
They're so good.
Yeah.
I love Gondor's armor.
If you want to know why The Hobbit failed where The Lord of the Rings succeeded, I can point to about 15 different things.
Exactly.
One of them is the costuming.
And all of those things combine into, we don't get to talk about them for the next 10 years. So, because I don't think any of them made it onto the top 250.
No, they didn't.
So, just saying, guys.
And just a spoiler alert for 10 years from now, maybe. No, I do not think that they deserve a place on the list.
Yes. We'll see. We'll see.
All right.
Awesome.
Well, do you have anything else that you want to touch on here?
I don't think so. Peter Jackson did a fantastic job with this. All of the actors were astounding.
Yeah.
In every one of the movies. I don't in all of the things that we've talked about, we never touch on a character.
Yeah.
Because the acting is spot on.
Right.
The characterization is generally spot on.
Yeah.
And like we mentioned Théoden a little bit, but he still brought everything to this performance.
Right. Yeah.
And there's a couple moments where you're like, yeah, just Théoden's a badass, because he is.
Yeah.
The entire time.
Yeah. Also, I think Sean Astin as Sam was incredible as well.
Yes.
Like, absolutely. Again, we can go on about all the characters.
Yeah.
He is the only other standout for me, though, where I'm like,
really
he's just
yeah, absolutely,
just unparalleled. I don't think anyone could do as good a job as he did
ever again.
Yeah,
no, completely agree. So again, all of the characters here are fantastic. The soundtrack just destroys you.
Yeah.
And the story is still very compelling.
Yeah.
In all of these. So if you haven't watched The Lord of the Rings yet, please do.
Yeah.
Like, it is a very worthwhile experience.
Also, why are you listening to us if you haven't watched any of them?
That's just your complaint, though. It's okay. There are people like not you in the world.
That's fair.
Sadly,
that's fair. My wife tells me that frequently.
If you haven't watched them, please do. They're fantastic.
And read the books.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
Audible is also very good for it.
Andy Serkis, who plays Gollum in this, has somewhat recently done the audio, like all three of the books in audiobook.
Yeah.
And from what I hear, it's fantastic.
Andy Serkis is fantastic.
Yeah.
So.
And the Ent scenes in the second book, apparently he takes a lot of inspiration from these films, and they talk real slow.
Oh, I love
so
that.
It takes a very long time to get through them.
Never say anything if it is not worth taking a long time to say.
So yeah.
Next week we're out.
Yes. Yeah.
Next episode we're out. We're into something new.
Yes. It's going to be Pulp Fiction.
Perfect.
Have you seen Pulp Fiction before?
I have not. It's not Hot Fuzz.
It is not Hot Fuzz. I'm not entirely sure what the connection is there.
Color? Pulp is pink, Fuzz is pink?
How do we end this? I'm just going to end it now. How do we end this?